started obviously as our New Year Day, so it's good to start off a new year doing something new. And getting on shore in Antarctica and be able to see our little furry friends up closely, as well as some of our Antarctic blubber slugs as they move around. From yesterday, we went from Elephant Island, we sailed down through the Bransfield and ended up this morning at Yankee Harbour to what we woke up to was a gorgeous day.
Epic. If you heard some hysterical giggling off the side of the ship, I'm willing to own that. That was me. And that was a spectacular show. That's the second time ever I've seen Type A orca. And I know I speak for a lot of the experienced staff that you were very, very blessed today. I hope you recognize that. And with that, we are going to have a little examination of exactly what we saw today. Right, it's actually the largest member of the dolphin family. It is not recognized as a whale at all. It is recognized though as an apex predator. That is to say there is nothing swimming in our oceans, globally speaking, that is above the orca in the food web. And also they are regarded as the wolves of the sea, working collectively to take down prey several times their size. And yeah. So looking at it, the Type A, by the way, is the largest orca in the world. The males of marked sexual dimorphism. The males are significantly larger. That large erect dorsal fin up to 2 meters in length. They are foraging along the ice pack, not within the ice pack, but along the edges. Feeding primarily, there are two types, B large and B small. Small focuses primarily on penguins, and B will focus primarily on pinnipeds, but opportunistically cetaceans as well, including things smaller whales like the minke whale. And finally, Type C, it is the smallest orca in the world. It lives deep within the ice pack. Again, black or gray on orange. In the absence of an eye patch, it has what's called an eye wisp, and feeding almost exclusively on fish, and but very rarely seen because of the habitat in which it spends most of its time. So I think I've already given it away, but by now you know that you saw Type A orca today, and we saw probably a macho-line there. Just as a reminder, it is a matriarchal system, so it's the female at the top with her direct descendants underneath her, the males never leaving their mother's side throughout their entire life, and females only leaving the natural line and forming their own after sexual maturity and successful birth, which would be 15 to 16 years of age. So, and just several macho lines traveling together. What you saw there is not necessarily a family unit. There's no breeding going on within them, but opportunistically as they encounter other macho lines and other subpods or pods, that would be a time when they would, there's mating. So that was absolutely amazing underneath the ship and all around, and thank you very much to the captain and crew for enabling us to do that. That was incredible. So the long pilgrimage out to the end of Half Moon, where you saw me enjoying the company of my spirit animal, the Weddell seal, and hopefully you not only saw it, for those of you who didn't get out that far, it's my understanding that around the back side on your Zodiac cruise there were a number, both here and over at Yankee Harbour after I left. So I think everyone now can confidently identify them, but in case you're still in doubt, I thought we'd just have a quick look. I did have a lot of amazing questions out there, and I thank you, each and every one of you, for engaging in warm, intelligent conversation. I use those terms loosely. But when we're looking at it here, and as we progress further south, now we're going to get into a few of the species we have yet to see, namely the Weddell seal, the crab-eater seal, and the leopard seal for those of us, for those that didn't see one yesterday at Point Wild. It's pretty unmistakable. One is the large rotund body. Outside the southern elephant seal, which I'm sure you're all intimately familiar with by now, it is the second largest of Antarctic species, so it's very, very big. But despite that, one way in which we identify it is it has disproportionately small flippers and a small head, given its huge body. and also that characteristically patterned coat. And later in the excursion, we did see another one pull out. Those of you who are keen observers noticed immediately that there was a color difference. And that's merely because the one that had crawled out of the ocean was clearly still wet, but the one that had been lying, I'd been sharing company with, was dry. So those are just due to discrepancies in whether it was wet or small. The only other seal down here, when we're identifying them with the pattern coat, of course, is the leopard seal, from which it gets its name. But the leopard seal has an enormous head, a definitive neck, and massive shoulders with very long foreflippers, so it would be pretty difficult to mistake the two. The other thing too is that we've given them, used analogies that you might be more familiar with at home. So we describe this as a cat-like face, that is to say that it's got an abbreviated muzzle. The crab-eater seal has what we describe as a dog-like face, a longer muzzle. Finally, the leopard seal has a reptilian head and a characteristic, almost reptilian smile, if you will. So out on the land and in close proximity, it's not too hard. And unfortunately, we didn't hear it today, and I don't want to steal too much of my thunder because, needless to say, there's a presentation dedicated to pinnipeds coming up, and there I will play their sounds, which they make both underwater and out on the land while they're sleeping. But it's hard to believe that an animal can make these very, very unique and beautiful sounds. There's some biostats, basic biometrics for you. Again, you'll notice that the female is actually larger and up to 600 kilograms in weight. So that's a pretty hefty seal, no matter what hemisphere you're from. Circumpolar distribution, we did have questions, were they hunted? Yes, but it was very, very minor, nothing to the degree of elephant seals, and certainly Antarctic fur seals. So the population remains strong, and their current conservation status remains as lower risk and least concern. The diet is primarily fish, and with a little bit of squid thrown in, and by crustaceans I'm referring specifically to Antarctic krill. However, they do not have the specialized dentition that we'll see up close in both the leopard seal and to a greater degree the crab-eater seal. By fish, I'm referring to ice fish and also Antarctic toothfish, which is a very bottom-dwelling fish in very deep water. So how do they accomplish this? Oh, here's a few facts. One of the largest of all seals on Earth, and as I mentioned, second largest down here, they employ what are called meandering descents. And so you can imagine they're up at the surface, they're hyperventilating, they're supercharging their myoglobin and their hemoglobin, and they're getting ready to dive down to depths of up to 750 meters. That's 75 atmospheric pressures working on your body, on your tissues, on the organs, and all the way down to the cellular level. For in excess of an hour, they're holding their breath. And we're going to discuss that ad nauseum in painful detail during the presentation. So stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss this. Anywho, rather than swimming all directly down to the bottom, they employ what's called this meandering descent, falling to the bottom, much like you might think a leaf falling from a tree. And what that does is it increases the search pattern. And furthermore, they want to minimize the amount of movement, so minimizing hydrodynamic noise, because what they're using are these delicate vibrissae, which are so sensitive they can actually sense the wake of a fish, believe it or not, that swam by 2 minutes prior. And even as those words free flow out of my mouth, I can't even believe it myself. And so, but I promise that is based on scientific literature and not Wikipedia. Anywho, they go down, and occasionally they'll actually flip over onto their back. And what they're doing is they're looking back up, and their prey will be backlit by the sky. And I'm thinking namely ice fish here. So what they did is they actually dragged a few involuntarily out into the raw sea in the absence of open water, drilled a hole through the ice. They knew the seal had to come back up through that hole. They employed depth profiles onto the animal. And they noticed this behavior, this sweeping behavior, and then suddenly the animal would shoot up from below. So they're using ascent attacks from below, and then seizing the prey, and then oblique angles up to the top in order to mitigate some of the effects of decompression. So there you have it, you heard it here first.